You're tired? But it's not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. It's a quieter kind of exhaustion. The kind that doesn't shout, but eats at you silently. Always agreeable. Always the peacemaker. Always the one who folds. You've learned to keep the peace, even when you're breaking inside. You've smiled through disrespect, shrugged off exploitation, and convinced yourself that kindness would one day be rewarded. But let me ask you, where has that kindness taken you? Has it earned you more respect, or just more expectations? You've been taught that being good is noble, that if you just give more, love more, understand more, the world will reciprocate. But what if that lesson was a lie? A comforting illusion, designed to keep you compliant, soft, predictable. Machiavelli saw through this long ago. He wasn't just a political strategist. He was a realist. He didn't write to destroy morality. He wrote to expose the game you didn't know you were playing. If you've ever swallowed your voice to keep the peace, you're about to see why that's costing you everything. Part 1. Why the good are discarded. Look around you. Who gets promoted? Who commands the room? Who sets the rules in social dynamics, relationships, boardrooms? Is it the kindest person? The most selfless? The most understanding? Or is it the one who knows when to say no? The one who commands attention, who is least afraid to be misunderstood? Here's the brutal truth. The world doesn't reward kindness. It rewards clarity, presence, and above all, power. And what most people call being good is often just a socially acceptable way to stay invisible. When your kindness has no edge, you're no longer a presence. You're just a resource. A resource, something others draw from, without needing to give anything back. You say yes when you should say no. You smile through discomfort. You're understanding even when you're being disrespected. And while you may think that's admirable, what the world sees is availability. What the world learns is that your energy costs nothing. And what costs nothing is valued as nothing. Machiavelli understood this better than most. He didn't glorify cruelty, he exposed utility. He saw that human beings respond to strength, not sentiment. He wrote, "If you must choose, it is safer to be feared than loved." Not because fear is noble, but because fear commands boundaries. It signals consequence. It tells others, if you cross this line, something will happen. Whereas unlimited kindness, it signals weakness. It tells the world, no matter what you do, I'll still be here. Now, this doesn't mean you need to become harsh or heartless, but it does mean you need to understand this. Being perceived as harmless is not a virtue. It's a vulnerability. Think about the kindest people you know. How many of them are chronically overextended, quietly resentful, rarely heard, yet always available. They've been taught that self-sacrifice equals worth. But Machiavelli would say, you're not being good. You're being easy to discard. Because when people can predict your behavior, when they know you'll bend, that you won't confront, that you'll forgive on demand, you stop being a person they respect. You become a convenience. This is not an indictment of kindness. It's a call to redefine it. Kindness with no boundaries is not kindness. It's compliance. And compliance does not earn respect. It earns silence. It earns invisibility. It earns the slow erosion of your self-worth in the name of being nice. If you've been there, if you're still there, understand this. Your kindness isn't the problem. Your lack of consequence is. Because the modern world is not run by saints. It's run by strategists. People who understand how they're being perceived, and who choose their posture accordingly. But this isn't just about power. It's about tracing the roots of your need to be good and confronting the uncomfortable truth about where it all began. Part 2. The psychology of people-pleasing. You weren't born trying to please everyone. You were trained to, not through one traumatic moment, but through the slow, consistent shaping of your nervous system. By approval, punishment, and silence. As a child, you quickly learned that being good wasn't just praised. It was safe. You learned that compliance earned affection, that obedience avoided conflict, that smiling when you didn't feel like it made adults happy, and that no was a dangerous word. So the unconscious equation formed: be good, be safe, be accepted. It became your first internal rulebook, your survival strategy. It wasn't connection you were chasing. It was escape from abandonment, from disapproval, from punishment. You weren't choosing kindness. You were choosing invisibility, because invisibility felt less risky than rejection. And this is where people-pleasing begins, not as a moral code, but as emotional armor. Fast forward to adulthood, and that same programming still runs the show. You say yes when you want to say no. You apologize before you speak. You water yourself down in every interaction, not because you lack intelligence or values, but because deep down, you've equated authenticity with danger. It's not just a habit. It's a form of self-erasure. You silence your opinions to keep the room stable. You anticipate others' needs, so you're never caught being too much. You trade your voice for peace and pay for it with resentment. But here's the paradox. The very behaviors you use to feel safe are the ones making you emotionally unsafe, because you've outsourced your identity. You've handed over the definition of your worth to others, to how comfortable they feel around you. And when you do that, you become addicted to being non-threatening, which means you start designing your entire personality around one objective: don't be rejected. What you call kindness is often a strategy of avoidance. What you call understanding is a performance of emotional labor. What you call being the bigger person is a chronic suppression of unmet needs and repressed boundaries. This isn't morality. This is conditioning. It's survival masquerading as virtue. And that's why, despite how much you give, you feel unseen. Despite how agreeable you are, you feel resentful. Despite how nice you've been, you feel replaceable. Because your relationships aren't built on who you are. They're built on the mask you wear. And here's the cost. The longer you wear that mask, the more convincing it becomes. Even to you. Eventually, you don't just play the role of the nice one. You believe you are that role. You forget what it feels like to take up space unapologetically, to say no without guilt, to disappoint someone without assuming it makes you bad. But underneath all of it, there's still a voice, a version of you, that's tired of managing everyone's comfort while ignoring your own. That voice is not broken. It's not selfish. It's not cruel. It's you, before the conditioning, before the script, before the survival strategy. So the real question is, if that's not the real you, then who is? Part 3. What Machiavelli really meant. When you hear the name Machiavelli, you probably imagine manipulation, deceit, cruelty, the archetype of a cold, calculating villain. But that reputation, it's a lazy caricature, a misreading. Because Niccolo Machiavelli wasn't writing The Prince to corrupt you. He was writing to wake you up. He wasn't interested in fantasy morality. He was interested in reality. the kind that punishes those who confuse being good with being prepared. Machiavelli wasn't against virtue. He was against the delusion that virtue alone protects you. He saw a brutal truth, one that still applies to our relationships, careers, and reputations today. If you don't learn how the game is played, you'll be sacrificed by it. Let's take one of his most controversial but revealing insights. A prince must learn how to be both a lion and a fox. Why? Because the lion alone is raw power, bravery, dominance, visible strength. But the lion lacks cunning. He sees traps too late. He wins battles, but walks into ambushes. The fox is the opposite: clever, adaptable, subtle. He detects deception, sees through false alliances, but he lacks the force to defend against a real threat. Machiavelli's brilliance was in recognizing this paradox. You don't survive by choosing one. You win by becoming both. You are kind, yes, but you are not naive. You are generous, yes, but you know when to withhold. You are diplomatic, yes, but you also know when to be a force of disruption. The fox sees what others miss. The lion ensures they never act on it. This is not about becoming aggressive. It's about becoming dangerous in the right moments. Let's apply this to real life. You can be the most honest employee in your company, but if you lack presence, you'll be overlooked. You can be the most emotionally available partner, but if you don't express standards, you'll be taken for granted. And that's exactly what Machiavelli understood. People don't respond to what's inside you. They respond to how you carry it. This is where the power of image and presence enters. He wrote, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you truly are." It's not cynical, it's strategic, because the world runs on perception. And if you don't shape that perception, others will shape it for you. Let's be honest. How many times have you seen someone with less skill, less depth, less sincerity command more respect just because they presented themselves with authority? Machiavelli would say, that's not injustice, that's information. If you want to be seen, you must learn how to be seen. This isn't about faking anything. It's about realizing that you're already performing. Every time you smile when you want to speak, apologize when you've done nothing wrong, or remain silent to avoid discomfort, you're playing a role. So Machiavelli's question is this: if you're already wearing a mask, why not choose one that protects you? Why not project strength, calm, and consequence instead of timidity, apology, and hesitation? When people sense you won't react, that you're not desperate to be liked, that you can walk away from any table, you shift the balance of power instantly. And that is what it means to be both fox and lion. The fox avoids the trap. The lion makes the trap setter regret trying. Here's the core message. You don't have to stop being good, but you must stop being predictable. Your goodness is a gift, but only when it's paired with discernment, with the courage to walk away, the ability to say no, and the wisdom to know when to appear kind, and when to command space. But that doesn't mean you have to abandon your goodness. It means you must arm it, and choose when it becomes visible. Part 4. The difference between kindness and weakness. There's a lie that's been told to you. Subtle, sweet, and devastating. It's the idea that being a good person means always being agreeable. That kindness means saying yes to everything. That empathy means staying silent, even when something violates your truth. But here's the problem. Kindness born from fear isn't kindness. It's strategy in disguise. When you're kind because you're afraid of being disliked, you're not acting from virtue. You're acting from anxiety. That's not morality. That's self-preservation. And the world can feel the difference. People know when your yes is genuine, and when it's just a strategy to avoid tension. They know when your smile is sincere, and when it's just a disguise for submission. Here's the truth most people don't want to admit. Toxic kindness is a form of self-abandonment. It's when you constantly prioritize peace over principle, agreement over boundaries, and external harmony over internal alignment. Let's make it clear. Kindness is not weakness, but weakness often hides in the costume of kindness. When you're afraid to disappoint, afraid to say no, afraid to be misunderstood, you will use kindness as a shield, and that kindness will slowly turn into exhaustion, into quiet resentment, into the slow erosion of self-respect. If you never draw a line, don't be surprised when they keep crossing it. And this is where naivety becomes dangerous. Naivety believes that if I do good, others will return it. That people will appreciate your heart, reciprocate your sacrifice, and recognize your virtue. But that's not how people work. People respond not to your intentions, but to your energy. And if your energy says, "I'll tolerate anything just to be liked," then that's exactly how they'll treat you, as someone who'll accept anything. You can be kind and still say no. You can be warm and still have sharp edges. You can be compassionate and still be feared. In fact, the most powerful kindness is the one that comes with standards. The kindness that says, "I will help, but not at my own expense. I will listen, but I will not absorb your chaos. I will forgive, but I won't forget my worth." That's not cruelty. That's emotional maturity. Because real kindness requires discernment. It asks, who am I giving this to? Are they worthy of it? Am I giving from abundance or from guilt? Think about it. A tree that gives fruit year-round with no rest, with no seasons, eventually dies. Even generosity needs rest. Without seasons, even the best tree dies. So here's how you know if your kindness is rooted in strength or in fear. If you say yes and feel empowered, it's kindness. If you say yes and feel depleted, it's weakness. If you give because it aligns with your values, it's strength. If you give because you're afraid to say no, it's submission. The shift begins when you stop asking, "Will they still like me if I say no?" And start asking, "Do I still like myself if I say yes?" That's the question that rewires everything. Because at the end of the day, people may appreciate your kindness, but they respect your limits. And if they only like you when you're convenient, when you don't challenge them, when you bend without resistance, then their affection is not love, it's control. True kindness doesn't mean being easy. It means being conscious. You choose when to soften. You choose when to stay open. You choose, intentionally, who gets the best of you. Not because you're afraid, but because you respect your value. So how do you make that shift without turning bitter or cold? Let's talk about it next. Part 5. The Strategic Rebirth. How to stop being nice and start being powerful. So, how do you stop being the nice one without becoming bitter, defensive, or cold? How do you move from being agreeable to being unshakable? This isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about recovering who you were before the world taught you that pleasing others was more important than respecting yourself. Here are 5 concrete shifts, not ideas, but practices. that will begin to transform your presence, your relationships, and your internal power. 1. Speak without guilt. Most people don't speak their truth because they've been conditioned to believe that honesty equals harm. But clarity is not cruelty. Honest communication, when expressed with intention, is not offensive. It's efficient. Start practicing this. I see it differently. I'm not available for that. This isn't aligned for me right now. And then stop. No apology. No over-explanation. Guilt makes your truth negotiable. Remove it. 2. Say no as a boundary, not a rejection. You're not saying no to people. You're saying yes to your time, your priorities, your sanity. Too many people avoid no because they confuse rejection with protection. But when your yes means nothing, your no means even less. Boundaries are not a wall. They are a filter, a clear, conscious way of saying, this is who I am, this is what I allow. And guess what? People respect boundaries far more than they respect overgiving. 3. Watch who resists your change. As you start to shift, as your tone sharpens, your boundaries tighten, and your posture becomes grounded. You will trigger people. Some will say, "You've changed. You're not as nice as you used to be. You're being selfish." Here's the truth. You haven't changed. You've just stopped being what was convenient for them. Their discomfort isn't your regression. It's your evolution disturbing their dependence. Take note of who pushes back. It will tell you exactly who benefited most from your lack of boundaries. 4. Release the need for universal approval. This one is a psychological detox. If you are still trying to be understood by everyone, you will dilute yourself endlessly. Powerful people are not universally liked. They are respected. Why? Because they don't ask, "Will this upset someone?" They ask, "Is this aligned with who I am?" Let go of the idea that being misunderstood is failure. Sometimes it's a sign you finally stepped into clarity. You don't owe anyone the version of you they're most comfortable with. 5. Replace validation seeking with strategic presence. There's a difference between being seen and needing to be seen, between showing up and performing for applause. The truly powerful don't move for attention. They move with intention. They speak less, but say more. They don't overshare, over-apologize, or over-explain. Their presence is a decision, not a reaction. That's what strategic presence is, the ability to be fully there, without performing for approval. Practice walking into rooms with this mindset. I have nothing to prove. I'm here because I chose to be. I don't need validation. I validate myself by showing up in integrity. Each of these practices is a layer of armor, not to protect you from the world, but to protect you from losing yourself in it. You're not losing your kindness. You're removing the conditioning that made it transactional. You're not abandoning your values. You're removing the parts of you that were built solely to be tolerated. Because the world doesn't change when you think differently. It changes when you behave differently. And now comes the moment that separates the thinkers from the doers. Do you want to be loved or free? Let's end with honesty. No one is coming to rescue you. No one will hand you back your voice, your dignity, your time. If you've been waiting for that moment, the recognition, the applause, the relief, it's not coming. Because the truth is brutal. The world will take whatever you keep giving. And if your kindness has no edge, no boundary, no cost, then it's not generosity. It's self-erasure. You were not born to be agreeable. You were not born to be digestible, bendable, forgettable. You were born with a voice and a mind and a presence too powerful to spend your life begging for permission to use them. So now the question isn't whether you're good, it's whether you're free. Because the two are not the same. Do you want to be loved, or do you want to be free? If you're done being digestible, comment, "I choose power over permission." Because that's what this journey is about. Not popularity, but presence. The next video will take you even further. This isn't a trend. This is transformation.